The green canvas payroll pouch hits the conference table hard enough to make the brass receipt spike tremble. My father lays one hand over it. 38.6, he says. Harbor needs it before noon. I look at the supplier statement he has pushed toward me. Then I look around the payroll office at three people pretending not to breathe. You want me to take $38,600 out of payroll? I want you to cover a supplier bill in cash. The Whitcomb Steel was funded last Tuesday. His eyes sharpen. Pay cash or lose your job, Mara. He says it in front of Paula from payroll, Len and Christy from project management, and my cousin Dean, who has stopped clicking his pen. I slide the statement back. I'm not doing that. My father's hand closes over the pouch. Then you're disloyal, he says, and you're done here. The strange part isn't that Russell Vale threatens to fire his own daughter. The strange part is the small brass key already waiting beside his thumb. It belongs to my office. For 6 years, the green pouch has traveled the same route every Friday morning. Paula prints the payroll register. I compare shop hours against job tickets, check travel per diem, separate taxable allowances, and sign the release. The pouch carries the summary sheets across the hall to Russell because he likes a ritual he can touch, even though the actual deposits move electronically. Today, the pouch is fat with envelopes. I open one. Bundled hundreds. Paula whispers, "Those were not there when I brought it in." Russell looks at her. "Did anyone ask you?" She folds her lips inward. I take the Harbor statement again. The total is typed, but the payment instructions are handwritten across the bottom in Russell's blocky capitals. Cash, no AP entry until Monday. Who withdrew this? I ask. We had money available. From which account? The one that has money in it. Len studies the ceiling tile above my head. Christy is holding a stainless steel travel mug with both hands, though she stopped drinking from it 5 minutes ago. Dean clicks his pen once, then catches himself. I say, Harbor won't give us an unconditional waiver for cash. They'll give us whatever I tell them to give us. Celia Park sent a credit hold yesterday. I spoke to someone above Celia. There isn't anyone above Celia in credit. Russell smiles as if I've given him a useful opening. He is good at that. He can turn another person's accuracy into evidence of their smallness. There's always someone above the person who says no. He looks almost comfortable. Gray work shirt, sleeves rolled neatly twice, black marker in the pocket. There's a pale scar across the back of his hand from a sheet metal edge that opened him to the tendon years ago. The shop still tells the story of how he wrapped it in a rag and finished a field measurement before going to urgent care. He tells it too, except in his version the cut gets deeper every year. I press 2 fingers against the packet of bills. This cash came from the operating draw. It came from Vale Architectural Metals. We're releasing direct deposit in 40 minutes. And there's enough. There's enough if you exclude last night's second shift overtime and the travel advances for the Whitcomb installers. They can wait until Monday. Russell, Dean says softly. My father doesn't turn. Dean tries again. The hotel inspection is Monday. We need that crew there Sunday night. That crew works for me. Only when we pay them, I say. His face changes. It's slight. The settling of one line beside his mouth, but I know it. He has moved from arguing with me to arranging what he'll say about me later. This is why I didn't want family in finance, he says. Everything becomes a performance. Paula's chair gives a tiny squeak as she shifts. I could ask him to clear the room. That would give him the private loyalty scene he wants, where he lowers his voice and calls me mayor and talks about the years when he took every dirty installation nobody else would touch. He would mention my mother without using her name. He would say, "Your mom understood what it costs to keep the doors open." Instead, I say, the Whitcomb progress payment was $412,000. Harbor's material was included in our approved schedule of values. Where did the money go? His fingers leave the pouch. Give me your office key. The little brass key on the table is his copy. He brought it in before he asked me. That answers one question. It opens 3 more. Russell, don't do this here, Dean says. My father finally looks at him. You're vice president of sales. Sell something. Dean's cheeks color. I unhook my key ring from my belt loop. The office key is square-headed and worn silver around the teeth. I work it free, set it beside Russell's copy, and hear Christie's mug touch the table. Paula, I say, do not release payroll until the overtime is included and the operating balance is verified. You don't give instructions here anymore, Russell says. Then you give her one. Is she releasing payroll as currently calculated? Paula looks between us. My father hates questions that leave a clean record. He especially hates them in front of witnesses. Payroll will go out, he says. With the approved overtime, it will go out. That wasn't my question. He takes the pouch and tucks it under his arm. Clear your desk by lunch. He walks out with $38,600 in cash. Dean stays seated until the shop door bangs shut down the hall. Well, Lien says, I picked the right morning to quit coffee. Christie shoots him a look. What? He says. My heart's doing plenty. Paula rises too fast and bumps the receipt spike. A yellow slip flutters off the top and lands against my shoe. I bend and pick it up. The spike is an ugly thing, 6 inches of pointed brass screwed into a round base. Alice Morton, Vale's first bookkeeper, used it before we had accounting software. Paid invoices went on the spike until she entered them into the ledger. After Alice retired, Russell tried to throw it away. I kept it because it was heavy enough to hold down delivery tickets when the loading bay fan rattled the windows. The yellow slip in my hand is from Halloran Equipment Leasing, $25,000 received as reservation deposit. The payer line says, Vale Architectural Metals. I remember Russell dropping it on my desk 9 days ago. Put it under equipment research, he'd said. I had told him a reservation deposit wasn't research. He'd laughed. You accountants would classify a life raft while the ship went down. The receipt is a carbon copy, its numbers faint but readable. Across the bottom is a model designation, FL-6020, a 6-meter fiber laser. I put the slip back on the spike. Everyone needs to return to work, Dean says. His voice has acquired a shade of Russell. Not enough to fit him, but enough to make me look at him. Paula doesn't move. Am I supposed to run payroll? Uncle Russ said payroll will go out. He also walked off with the cash reserve. You heard him. I heard Mara ask a very specific question. Dean rubs the space between his eyebrows. Give me 10 minutes. You have 32, I tell him. The bank release closes at 11. He turns on me. Could you stop being controller for 1 minute? That minute is how people don't get paid. I know what you think. No, you know how to finish my sentences. That isn't the same thing. His jaw shifts. Dean and I grew up treating Vale's shop like a country with dangerous borders. We knew where to stand when Russell was angry, which jokes could disarm him, and how long to wait before asking for something expensive. Dean learned charm. I learned documentation. Each of us thought the other had chosen the easier weapon. He glances at Paula and the project managers. Room, please. Paula gathers her register. Lien stands, reaches automatically for the half donut on his napkin, then seems ashamed of himself and leaves it. Christie pauses beside me. The Whitcomb rail returns past dry fit, she says. It sounds irrelevant. It isn't. Who signed the receiving tickets for the lobby stainless? Marco, all 3 loads. Thanks. Dean closes the door behind them. You could have taken this private, he says. He put cash in a payroll pouch. You could have said you needed time to verify it. He gave me a choice. He gave you a bad choice. There's a difference. Only to the person who expects me to choose wrong. Dean walks to the window overlooking the shop. Below us, the press brake comes down with a deep mechanical thump. A pallet of wrapped stainless sits inside a yellow safety line. 2 fabricators are arguing over a drawing, one tracing a radius with a gloved finger. We're tight, Dean says. How tight? I don't know. You're vice president of sales. That's what Russell says when he wants you important and what you say when you don't want responsibility. He turns. You think I knew he was going to do this? I think you stopped clicking your pen before he fired me. For a moment, his face is completely unguarded, then it closes. He called me at 6 this morning, Dean says. Told me there was a supplier problem and you were being rigid. Did he tell you there would be cash? No. Did he tell you he had already brought his key to my office? Dean looks at the empty place on the table. No. I believe him, which is inconvenient. He lowers his voice. Mara, go downstairs. Let him cool off. I'll get the keys back. I don't want the keys back. Sure you do. I want to know why Harbor hasn't been paid. We have 2 delayed receivables. Whitcomb wasn't delayed. Cash moves. Not by itself. He exhales through his nose. This is exactly the tone he means. And that's exactly the sentence he uses when facts aren't helping him. There's a knock. Paula opens the door without waiting. Sorry, not sorry actually. The operating account is short by $21,000 if we include approved overtime and per diem. Dean stares at her. How? The cash withdrawal posted at 9:12. How much? She looks at me before answering. 38.6. So Russell didn't bring reserve cash from a safe or customer deposit. He pulled it from the same account we use for payroll, then demanded I bless the gap. Reverse the release, I say. Dean points at me. You are no longer authorized. Paula's expression hardens. Then authorize me. He hesitates. Down in the shop, the press brake hits again. Reverse it, he says. Paula nods and disappears. You've got until 11 to find $21,000. I tell him. We have a receivable from Brenner. Committed to sales tax. Northlake? Deposit against unbilled bronze. Spend it, and we buy their bronze with air. He gives a short, humorless laugh. You enjoy this part. What part? Being the only adult in the room. It lands because there have been times I enjoyed it. Competence can become its own kind of vanity. I know the pleasure of watching chaos arrive and having the exact spreadsheet that names it. I would love to be unnecessary, I say. Dean looks tired then, older around the mouth. He's scared. The observation irritates me more than a defense would. Of Harbor? Of the bank, of losing Whitcomb, of becoming the guy who built a good shop and couldn't make it bigger. That doesn't make payroll his wallet. I know. Do you? Yes, Mara. I know things even when I don't say them the way you would put them in an email. My desk phone rings in the office across the hall. Once, twice. Dean and I both look through the glass wall. My office door is still open, but Russell's spare key lies on the conference table. He prepared to remove me and forgot to complete the gesture. The phone stops. A second later, my cell vibrates. The display says, Celia Park Harbor Alloy. I let it go to voicemail. Dean watches the name disappear. Call her. I'm fired. You're making that sound permanent. Your uncle brought a key. He brings bolt cutters to ribbon cuttings. Props are his love language. I almost smile. Dean sees it and softens. Go home, he says. Let me move some money. I'll talk to him after lunch. If you move restricted deposits into payroll, write down what you did. There she is. I mean it. I know. I return to my office. Someone has placed an empty banker's box on my chair. It is freshly folded, the cardboard tabs still resisting each other. My desk holds 12 years of ordinary life. 2 chipped mugs, a bottle of hand lotion that smells like oranges, shop drawings awaiting cost codes, and a bent photograph of my mother standing beside Vale's first water jet. She has safety glasses pushed into her hair and one hand on Russell's shoulder. He is looking at the camera. She is looking at him. I pack the photograph first, then the mugs. The documents take longer because I know exactly where the line is. I leave original company records in their files. I copy the receiving reports and supplier notices I was authorized to retain as controller. I print the emails in which I requested payment approval. I add the certified mail log, the Harbor statement, and the scan index for every yellow receipt Russell has dropped on my desk since January. On top of the stack, I place the Halloran equipment receipt from the brass spike. $25,000 isn't $412,000. But a fiber laser doesn't cost $25,000. I log into the equipment research folder. My access still works. Inside is a revised purchase agreement I have never seen, signed by Russell 3 days after Whitcomb's payment cleared. Reservation deposit, $25,000. Accelerated manufacturing slot, $165,000. Freight and rigging advance, $47,500. The payment dates match 3 transfers coded to Whitcomb mobilization, outside processing, and field installation. At the bottom, Russell has initialed a clause making every deposit non-refundable after Friday, tomorrow. My father didn't ask me to hide one cash payment. He asked me to help him reach Friday. I copy the Halloran receipt, return the yellow original to the brass spike, and print the purchase agreement. The copier has just pulled in the last page when Russell appears in the doorway. He looks at the banker's box, then at the paper in my hand. That agreement is confidential. I'm still listed as controller. You're not. The system disagrees. He steps inside and closes the door. Through the glass wall, I can see Lien crossing the hall with a roll of drawings. He glances in, recognizes the angle of Russell's shoulders, and keeps walking. "You went looking for a reason to make this bigger," Russell says. "I went looking for $237,500. His eyes flick down to the agreement. There it is, confirmation before denial. The machine pays for itself in 14 months. That's the sales projection. The cash model says 26. The cash model assumes we keep outsourcing at the same volume. It assumes we make payroll. We will. How? Dean is handling it. That isn't an answer. It is when you no longer work here. He reaches for the agreement. I move it onto the copier glass and press start. Russell gives me a look I have seen silent subcontractors twice his size. It works because it contains more disappointment than anger. Anger invites resistance. Disappointment makes people search themselves for the flaw. "Your mother believed in that machine," he says. The copier light passes beneath the paper. My mother has been gone 9 years. She and I talked about bringing cutting in-house, on the old water jet, on whatever came next. The copier spits out a second copy. He takes the original from the glass. "You always do that." "Do what?" "Reduce people to the paperwork they left behind." I grip the edge of my desk. "You used Whitcomb's payment for an equipment deposit and coded it to their job. I used cash that was sitting idle for less than 30 days. Harbor filed a preliminary notice. Their cash wasn't idle. Celia Park files notices when someone sneezes. That's her job. And mine is keeping this company from becoming a museum full of 30-year-old machines." He points through the glass toward the shop. "When we cut elevator skins outside, we lose 11 points. When we wait on Ross Fab, we lose 2 weeks. When Ross sees a hotel logo on a drawing, their price goes up because they know the schedule owns us. That laser cuts full sheets overnight with one operator. It nests better than any of our vendors. It puts us in control." This is the part of Russell that makes his worst decisions hard to dismiss. He understands the work. He has spent months comparing assist gas consumption, cut speeds, nozzle costs, and service contracts. He probably knows exactly how many Whitcomb panels could have been nested on one sheet if we owned the machine today. "You were supposed to bring it to the Capital Committee," I say. He laughs once. "The Capital Committee is you telling me the company can afford things after the moment to buy them has passed. The committee is you, me, and Dean." "Exactly." "Then why are you angry that I found out?" His face goes still. From somewhere below us comes the electric whine of a grinder. It rises, holds, and stops. "Because you found out like an auditor," he says, "instead of asking me like a daughter. You threatened me like an owner. I gave you the chance to help. You gave me a bag of cash. I gave you a problem to solve. You had already chosen the solution." He looks at the box again. "Take your personal things. Leave company records." I'm leaving originals. These are controller copies tied to approvals made under my credentials. Your credentials are company property. The decisions are yours. His mouth tightens. I lift the banker's box. The bottom bows under the weight. Russell moves aside, then says, "If you walk through that door with those papers, don't expect me to undo this tonight." I stop beside him. "You brought my office key before you asked me for the cash." For the first time all morning, he has nothing ready. I carry the box out. The shop floor smells like hot steel, cutting oil, and the burnt coffee odor that drifts from the break room after 10. My route to the parking lot takes me past the layout tables. Marco Alvarez is checking the curve on a brass handrail with a plywood template, pressing it down at 3 points while another fabricator watches for daylight. Marco looks up. Inventory audit? Personal inventory. His gaze moves from my face to the box. "Ah," he says, "the kind with feelings." Despite myself, I laugh. He sets down the template. "You want help?" "I've got it." "Bottom's going." "I've still got it." He reaches under the box anyway, supporting one corner with 2 fingers. "Now you've got it." We walk past the wrapped stainless for Whitcomb. Each skid has Harbor's blue shipping tag under the plastic. Heat numbers, sheet gauge, purchase order, job number. I have stared at those tags in receiving photographs all week without letting them become anything more than rows in the job cost report. Marco nods toward them. "Christy said you were asking about tickets. Did all 3 deliveries match?" "Every sheet. 14 gauge on the lobby, 16 in the service corridor. 1 bundle came with mill certs for the wrong heat. We held it until Harbor emailed corrected certs." So there was communication. There's always communication when somebody wants money. Did Russell talk to the driver? Last Thursday, asked if Harbor would take a company check at the dock. Driver told him he carries steel, not forgiveness. That sounds like something Celia trained him to say. At the exterior door, Marco removes his fingers from the box. "You coming back?" "I don't know." He rubs a thumb over a dent in the brass template. "Russell knows metal. You know where the metal belongs. Those are different jobs." Before I can answer, the door opens behind us. Dean has his phone wedged between his shoulder and ear. "Yes, move the owner distribution, all of it. Put back the trade show balance, too." Russell's voice carries down the aisle. "Dean." Dean shuts his eyes. "Call you back," he tells whoever is on the phone. Russell walks toward us with the green pouch under his arm. It looks absurdly domestic against his work shirt, like he packed lunch for someone he dislikes. "You touch my distribution, you'd better be buying me out," he says. "I'm covering payroll. You use the Brenner receivable." "It won't clear today." "Then use Northlake. Mara says it's restricted." Russell turns his head toward me. "Mara doesn't work here." "The contract says it's restricted," Dean replies. My father gives him a long look. "You have 20 minutes to decide what your title means." Dean's expression changes. He straightens, though not much. "It means payroll clears at 11. Russell turns to Marco. "Don't you have a rail to inspect?" "Waiting on the family waiver," Marco says. The corner of Dean's mouth twitches. Russell stares at Marco until Marco lifts both hands and goes back to the layout table. I push open the exterior door. "Mara," Russell says. I look back. He holds out the green pouch. "Take this to Harbor. Get me a waiver and come back Monday. The aisle has gone quiet in sections. Machines still run, but people nearby have found reasons to stay in place." "You fired me," I say. "I'm giving you room to reconsider." "With the same cash?" It's what they're owed. They're owed a traceable company payment against approved invoices. They're owed an accurate remittance. They're owed a conditional waiver when they receive funds and an unconditional waiver after the funds clear. They're owed money. You're hiding behind vocabulary. I'm protecting Vale's lien release. You're protecting your pride. That one finds me. For half a second, I see myself through his eyes. Box in my arms, audience at my back, answer ready before the question finishes. My pride is here. So is his. The difference is that only one of us brought it $38,000 in cash. "Put it back in the operating account," I say. His arm drops. Disloyal, he says again, quieter this time. The word follows me into the parking lot. By noon, my access to the accounting system is disabled. At 12:11, my company email disappears from my phone. At 12:28, Paula texts one sentence, "Payroll released complete." I sit in my car with the air conditioner blowing against my knees and read it 4 times. Then I drive home. My apartment is 10 minutes from Vale if the drawbridge is up and 25 if a freighter is moving through the canal. Today, the bridge is down, traffic backed past the marine supply store. I watch the ship pass between warehouses, slow enough to look motionless. Its hull is rust red and streaked white at the waterline. My mother used to say large things hide their speed. She said it about freighters, debt, and Russell. At home, I place the banker's box on my dining table. The Halloran agreement goes beside the receipt copies. Harbor's 3 notices make a second stack. The first is polite. The second suspends further deliveries. The third, sent certified, states that Harbor will preserve all available lien rights if the account remains unpaid. Russell signed for that one himself. I find the green certified mail card in the scan archive I printed. His signature crosses the line and climbs the margin, impatient even at 2 inches wide. My phone rings. Celia Park. I answer this time. Mara Vale. There is a pause. Are you still with Vale Architectural? That depends on whether you ask me or the person who changed my password. I'm asking because Russell Vale offered my driver cash in your payroll pouch. I close my eyes. How do you know it was the payroll pouch? Our driver said it had payroll stitched on the side. Of course it does. My mother embroidered the word in white thread because Russell kept using the pouch to carry drill bits. Did the driver accept it? No. Russell came to our dock himself. He wanted a receipt dated Monday and an unconditional waiver dated last week. What did Celia Park say? Celia Park said absolutely not. Then Russell asked for my boss. I lean back in my chair. I told him there's always someone above the person who says no, she continues. Unfortunately for him, our owner hired me to be that person. A laugh escapes me before I can stop it. Celia's voice softens half a degree. He said the materials were disputed. They weren't. Were they received? Yes, 3 loads. Marco Alvarez signed the tickets. 1 mill certificate was corrected by email, but all material was accepted. Installed? The lobby package is installed. Service corridor skins were staged when I left. Were Harbor's invoices included in Whitcomb's funded schedule? I look at the payment request on my table. I can't discuss client funds outside my authority. That's fair. She sounds almost relieved by the boundary. I can tell you the invoices were approved, I say, and I can confirm I sent 3 payment requests to Russell. We have the first 2. The third went yesterday at 4:19. Can you forward it? Not from company email. My access was removed. Another pause. Did you leave voluntarily? No. I'm sorry. The sympathy is worse than Russell's anger. It makes the room too quiet. What happens now? I ask. We serve a notice of intent to lien. When? If nothing changes Friday, the same day the laser deposits become non-refundable. Who receives it? Vale, the general contractor, and Whitcomb Development. I look at the Halloran receipt. Russell knows your deadline, I say. He knows. I put it in every email. After we hang up, I call Dean. It goes to voicemail. At 2:16, an email arrives at my personal address from him with the subject line, Internal Personnel Memo, Please Review. The attachment says, I failed to schedule Harbor's payment, withheld the seriousness of its collection activity, and left the premises during an active payroll reconciliation. At the bottom is a blank signature line with my name under it. Dean's message contains 6 words. Please don't react until we talk. I print the memo and put it on the dining table between Russell's signed lien notice and the non-refundable laser agreement. Then I take the brass spare key he forgot in the conference room from my pocket and set it on top. The key has left a shallow dent in the memo. By the time Dean knocks on my door, He's holding 2 paper bags from Kowalski's Deli and wearing the same blue shirt from this morning, now wrinkled along the stomach. His tie is folded into his breast pocket. "You planning to stab someone with that?" he asks, looking at the key. It would be easier to explain than the accounting. He lifts the bags. "I brought pierogi. You brought leverage." "I brought both. The leverage is sauerkraut." I let him in. Dean sees the dining table and stops. I have arranged the documents by date. Harbor's invoices and notices, my payment requests, Whitcomb's approved schedule of values, Russell's equipment agreement, the yellow receipt copies, and his new memo. The spare key sits above them like a paperweight. "You always make conflict look like tax preparation," he says. It helps me stay calm. Is it working? No. He sets the food on the kitchen counter. Good. I'd hate to think I'm the only one having a terrible day. He pulls containers from the bags and finds plates without asking. Dean has been in my apartment enough times to know which cabinet sticks. He bumps it with his hip, the way he always does, and puts 2 glasses of water on the table between Harbor's second notice and the Halloran agreement. "You used your owner distribution," I say. He opens a sour cream packet with his teeth. "Russell's too." He knows. He does now. And the trade show balance? Gone. We can look forward to not exhibiting at the Hospitality Design Expo. We spent 6 months getting that corner booth. You say that like I personally wanted to stand under fluorescent lights for 3 days while strangers steal our brass samples. You love strangers. I love qualified leads. Strangers are exhausting. He pushes a plate toward me. I don't touch it. "Payroll cleared," he says. "All overtime, all per diem. Paula verified the file twice." I know. "She texted you? That seems to bother you." "It bothers me that everyone trusts you more after you leave. Maybe leaving improved my management style." Dean gives me a tired smile. Then he pulls the personnel memo from the table. "Russell wrote this. He dictated. I cleaned it up. You put your name on an email sending me a false statement. I sent it for review. You asked me to sign it. I asked you not to react. That was optimistic." He flattens the memo with both palms. "The bank is doing a borrowing base review next week. If they see a material supplier stopped shipments and threatened lien action, they can exclude Whitcomb receivables. If they see our controller walked out during payroll, I was fired. If they see an internal management disagreement, they ask questions. This memo gives us a clean explanation. It gives you a victim. It gives us time. That's what the cash was supposed to do." His gaze moves to the Halloran agreement. "You printed the whole thing." "I didn't have to. The money is in the ledger." "Not very well." "No." He sits across from me. "Russell will reinstate you Monday. Same salary, same title. He'll call today a suspension. I won't sign the memo. Add language." The true language would say the owner diverted project funds, attempted to remove cash from payroll, and terminated the controller who refused to conceal it. I said add language, not throw a grenade. What wording makes a lie more accurate? Dean leans back. "You really want an answer? Fine. Say payment responsibility was reassigned to executive management pending reconciliation. Say you dispute the characterization that you withheld anything. Say you left after being directed to surrender your keys. We'll attach your statement." And the sentence that blames me stays on page 1. The bank may never see it. Then why does it exist? He looks at Russell's signature on the certified mail card. The food between us cools. A bead of moisture runs down his glass and blurs the corner of one copied invoice. Dean wipes it with his sleeve. He thought the Whitcomb balance would cover Harbor next week. From what source? Brenner. The receivable you tried to use for payroll? They promised Friday. They've promised 3 Fridays. I know. Does Russell? Mara, he knows. He isn't confused. He made a bet. And now he wants the rest of us to pretend we placed it. Dean rubs both hands over his face. He's good at this, he says through his fingers. At fabrication. At seeing where the market is going. The laser changes our margins. We could take the Madison Hotel interiors without handing half the package to Ross Fab. We could bid hospital work again. He negotiated the equipment price down 9% and got Halloran to guarantee commissioning before the Whitcomb second phase. He risked the first phase to buy equipment for the second. He thinks if we stay small, we die slowly. And if he gets his way, Dean drops his hands, maybe we get bigger. There it is, the part Dean has been protecting. Not only Russell, the vision. Dean has sold the second phase as if it already belongs to us. He has memorized Whitcomb's expansion schedule, cultivated their design director, revised the sample case 3 times. The laser would let him promise lead times our current equipment cannot meet. You want the machine, I say. Yes. Enough to sign the memo? His eyes harden. I haven't signed it. You drafted it. Because he asked me to. That sentence has financed this company for 20 years. He pushes away from the table. You think your hands are clean because you say no in complete sentences. I stand too. What is that supposed to mean? It means you've watched Russell do versions of this forever. Split deposits, delayed payables, changed coding after the month closed. You documented your objections, then fixed the reports and stayed. I kept vendors paid. You kept him functional. The words open something unpleasant because they are true enough to hurt and incomplete enough to resist. Dean steps closer to the table. When Harbor's first warning came, why didn't you call Whitcomb? Because we had time to cure it internally. Why didn't you call the bank? Because that would have triggered a review. You made a judgment. You protected the company. So did I. I didn't falsify a personnel memo. No. You waited until the difference between you and Russell was dramatic enough to display. I look at my mother's photograph on the sideboard. She is still looking at Russell, hand on his shoulder. I believed he would pay Harbor, I say. So did I. The anger goes out of Dean as quickly as it came. He sits again and opens the container of pierogi. These have become structural. I take my seat. We eat 2 bites in silence. The lien notice goes out tomorrow, I say. His fork stops. How do you know? Celia told me. You spoke to Harbor after you left? She called me because Russell tried to give her driver the payroll pouch. Dean closes his eyes. He drove there? He also asked for a receipt dated Monday and a waiver dated last week. Did she take the money? No. He lets out a breath. Why are you relieved? I ask. Because if she took cash and signed a waiver, we'd still have a false aging report, but Russell would call it solved. Exactly. What will stop the notice? Full payment with a traceable remittance. Maybe a joint check if Harbor agrees. Whitcomb would find out. Whitcomb is about to find out through a lien notice. He looks toward the window. Across the canal, warehouse lights stain the low clouds orange. If they freeze us, he says, we can't finish the punch list. If they discover we hit it, they'll freeze more. He taps his fork against the plate. How would a joint check work? The general contractor holds the next payment, issues it jointly to Vale and Harbor signs a conditional waiver against the check. Once it clears, they issue the unconditional release. Remaining funds go into controlled disbursement for Whitcomb costs. We lose control of the cash. Yes. Russell will never agree. He doesn't have to like gravity either. Dean reaches for the payment request. Do we have enough earned but unpaid to cover Harbor? Just over $62,000 after retainage, assuming the field quantities are accepted. They were measured Tuesday. By whom? Christie and Whitcomb's superintendent. Then probably. He studies the schedule of values. Sales comes naturally to Dean, but he understands project numbers when he chooses to. He traces the columns with one finger. This keeps the job moving, he says. It could. And Harbor? Celia wants to get paid more than she wants to hurt Vale. He nods slowly. Then he pushes the memo toward me again. If I take this to Russell, will you hold off contacting Whitcomb? I'll give you until 9 tomorrow morning. 10. 9. Harbor has its own process. I need to get him before the client meeting. What client meeting? Dean's face answers before he does. The Whitcomb second phase presentation, he says, 10:30, at Vale. He kept it? We need the package. You're pitching expansion while their first project has an unpaid material supplier. We're pitching what we can do once the laser is commissioned. The laser bought with their project cash. Dean stands, collecting neither the dishes nor the memo. He won't accept the joint check if he thinks you forced it on him. Then tell him it was your idea. That would make him suspicious. Tell him you hate it. That might work. At the door, he looks back at the dining table. You really took his spare key. He left it. That is not the same as permission. I'll return it when he returns mine. Mari. It's a key, Dean, not the company. He looks at me for a long moment. Sometimes I don't know whether you understand exactly how much a symbol matters to him or not at all. I learned symbols from Russell. Dean leaves with the memo under his arm. At 8:40 the next morning, an envelope slides beneath my apartment door. Inside is a revised memo and a handwritten note from Russell. Return Monday. We'll straighten this out privately. The harbor matter is being handled. Sign before the Whitcomb meeting. The revised memo still says I failed to escalate harbor's collection activity. It now says my departure was voluntary. I photograph the note beside his certified mail signature and email Dean one sentence. 9 o'clock still means 9 o'clock. At 9:12, Dean replies. He said, no, please give me 1 hour. At 9:13, I send a correction to Scott Farrell, the project executive at Bendix Construction, the general contractor. My name and electronic approval are on Vale's latest cost-to-complete report, which marks Harbor current. I state that the status is inaccurate, attach the approved Harbor invoices and receiving ticket index, and propose the joint check arrangement. I copy Evelyn Shaw, Whitcomb Development's finance director, because Vale's subcontract requires direct notice of any known claim that could attach to the property. Then I send the same correction to Russell and Dean. Russell responds first. You are terminated for cause. Cease representing Vale. Dean responds 20 seconds later. I was trying. Scott Farrell asks whether the installed material can be verified by tag delivery and field reports. I send the index, not the internal equipment documents. Christie's field report identifies every lobby panel by elevation. Marco's tickets carry the matching purchase order and heat numbers. At 9:40, Celia emails Scott that Harbor will accept a joint check, but will not delay statutory notice without written commitment. At 9:53, Evelyn Shaw asks me to attend the 10:30 meeting. Russell has apparently submitted a revised project forecast attributing the harbor balance to an accounting error created by former staff. The report still carries my name in the certification footer. I change into the Navy suit I keep for bank meetings. Before leaving, I put the copied receipts, payment requests, certified mail card, and both personnel memos into a slim black portfolio. The spare office key goes into the inside pocket. Vale's parking lot is full when I arrive. Whitcomb's black SUV occupies the visitor space. Scott's truck is beside it. Through the office windows, I can see the sample panels arranged along the conference room wall. Satin brass, blackened steel, bead-blasted stainless. Dean has set out the expensive coffee. Paula meets me at the front desk. Russell told me not to let you in. Evelyn Shaw invited me. I know. She presses the door release button. That's why I'm enjoying this. Inside the conference room, Russell is standing beside a rendering of Whitcomb's next hotel lobby. Dean sits near the screen with his laptop open. Scott Farrell and Evelyn Shaw have documents spread in front of them. Russell stops speaking when I enter. Mara is no longer authorized to represent Vale, he says. Evelyn gestures to the empty chair beside her. She's here to represent the accuracy of a report bearing her certification. I sit. Russell resumes his presentation by calling Harbor temporary vendor noise caused by an internal personnel issue. Then he turns to the rendering and begins describing the new laser's ability to hold complex cut patterns across full-length sheets. He is persuasive. Even now, even here. Dean keeps his eyes on the laptop. A buzzer sounds at the front desk. Paula's voice comes through the conference phone. "Russell, there's a courier who needs your signature. He says it concerns the Whitcomb property." Across the table, Evelyn's pen stops moving. Russell presses the conference phone button. "Send him in." Paula opens the door first. The courier follows with a tablet in one hand and a rigid red envelope tucked beneath his arm. He wears a brown windbreaker damp at the shoulders from the rain. "Russell Vale?" "That's me." The courier offers the tablet. "Signature for notice of intent to claim lien concerning labor or materials furnished to the Whitcomb Hotel property." The words enter the room one at a time. Russell signs with his index finger. The courier checks the screen, hands him the red envelope, and turns to Evelyn. "Ms. Evelyn Shaw." "Yes. I have your copy as property owner representative." Scott lifts one hand. "Bendix Construction." "And one for you." The courier completes 3 signatures, wishes us a good morning, and leaves the smell of wet pavement behind him. Russell sets his envelope face down. "This is a collection tactic," he says. "The underlying amount is being resolved." Evelyn opens her copy. $38,600 for Harbor Alloy. "The money is available." Scott looks up. "Then why am I reading this?" "Because a former employee interfered with payment negotiations." Russell looks straight at me. On the credenza behind him, beside the expensive coffee and a tray of untouched pastries, sits the green payroll pouch. He must have brought it back from Harbor and left it there during the presentation. The word payroll faces the room in my mother's uneven white stitching. I stand, pick it up, and place it in the center of the table. Russell's voice lowers. "Leave that alone." I unzip it. The cash is gone. Inside is a bank receipt showing a deposit of $38,600 into Vale's operating account at 8:14 that morning. "You put the cash back," I say, "because Harbor refused it. You withdrew it from the payroll account yesterday. You demanded that I take it to Harbor without entering the payment into accounts payable. You told me to pay cash or lose my job." Evelyn's gaze shifts to Russell. He folds his arms. That is her interpretation. "Paula saw the cash," I say. Len Foster, Christy Ames, and Dean were in the room. The payment instruction was handwritten on Harbor's statement. I take the copied statement from my portfolio and place it beside the pouch. Cash. No AP entry until Monday. Scott reads the line, then pushes the page toward Evelyn. Russell's face darkens. That instruction was about timing. Harbor was threatening to stop our account over an invoice we disputed. You approved the invoice on the 2nd. I placed the approval behind the statement. Then Marco's receiving ticket index. Then Christie's field report. 3 loads received. The material was tagged to Whitcomb. 1 incorrect mill certificate was corrected before release. The lobby package was installed and accepted for billing. Scott flips to the field report. I was at this walk. The stainless was in place. The dispute involved documentation, Russell says. "What documentation?" Evelyn asks. Russell looks at Dean. Dean stares at his laptop screen. "Dean," Russell says. Dean closes the laptop. "There was no material dispute," he says. Russell's head turns slowly. Dean continues before he can stop him. "Harbor was approved for payment. Mara requested release 3 times. Uncle Russ held it. The payment was being managed against our broader credit relationship." "Harbor put us on credit hold," Dean says. "I know what they did." "Then stop talking like they misplaced an invoice." Russell plants both hands on the table. "You have a client sitting here." "Yes," Dean says. "That's why I'm saying it now." The room seems to contract around them. Evelyn reaches for the statement. "Mr. Vale, Whitcomb funded this material in your last progress payment. Was that payment used for another purpose?" Russell straightens. "The funds remained within Vale Architectural Metals and supported Whitcomb's delivery capacity. That is not what I asked. We secured equipment necessary to meet the next phase schedule." Dean turns his laptop around. The presentation slide shows the fiber laser beneath a list of production advantages: faster nesting, reduced outsourcing, shorter lead time, higher margin. Scott reads the model number, FL-6020. Yes, Russell says. 6-meter bed, 12-kilowatt source, full automation ready. We can cut every stainless lobby skin for Phase 2 in-house. You don't have it, Evelyn says. We secured the manufacturing slot. With our project funds? With company funds. I removed the yellow Halloran receipt copy and the signed purchase agreement from my portfolio. Russell points at me. Those are internal capital documents. They're responsive to her question. You are not authorized to disclose them. I was authorized to approve the transactions coded to Whitcomb. I never approved these. Evelyn doesn't reach for the agreement. You can summarize. $237,500 in deposits and advances were paid to Halloran after Whitcomb's progress payment cleared. The transfers were coded to Whitcomb mobilization, outside processing, and field installation. Russell signed the purchase agreement. Scott exhales. That explains the cost report. It explains why it's wrong, I say. Russell turns to Evelyn. We are talking about a short-term allocation. The Brenner account pays today. Harbor gets its money. The machine increases our capacity before your second phase release. There is no loss to Whitcomb. Evelyn considers him for a moment. I understand why his argument has worked so often. If Brenner pays, if Harbor accepts, if Halloran commissions on schedule, if Whitcomb awards Phase 2, the numbers eventually bend toward his version of events. He sees the finished railing before anyone else has approved the shop drawing. Your confidence isn't a payment control, Evelyn says. A muscle moves in his cheek. Scott turns to me. The joint check proposal, $62,000 earned and unpaid? Approximately after retainage. Field quantities need final confirmation. They were confirmed Tuesday. I can certify them today. Harbor will sign a conditional waiver against a joint check, I say. Celia confirmed in writing. After clearance, they'll release the lien notice. The remaining earned funds can cover Whitcomb labor and approved project costs through controlled disbursement. Russell gives a sharp laugh. You want my largest client to put my job in a cage. I want the supplier paid. You want control. Yes, I say. The answer surprises him. For years, I have softened that word for his benefit. Controls, oversight, review, segregation of duties. I made control sound like a friendly railing installed along the edge of his judgment. Today, I let it mean what it means. Evelyn closes the lien notice. Whitcomb will authorize a joint check to Vale and Harbor once Scott certifies the field quantities. Future payments on the current project will require supplier verification. That violates our payment terms, Russell says. The lien violates them first. We can cure it today. That is what the joint check does. Russell looks at Dean. Tell her what happens to the schedule if they freeze our cash. Dean's hands rest on the closed laptop. The current work can finish under controlled payments, he says. And Phase 2? Evelyn answers. Vale's package is removed from consideration pending an independent financial review. Dean flinches as if the sentence has struck him physically. Russell sees it. You understand what you just did? Dean looks at me, then back at Russell. I removed Harbor from the meeting packet yesterday. I feel the admission before I understand it. What? Evelyn asks. Mara's payment request and the credit hold warning were in the first draft. Russell told me the client didn't need internal vendor noise. I deleted them. Scott leans back in his chair. Dean's voice roughens. Then I drafted a memo saying Mara failed to escalate the problem. She refused to sign it. I sent her a revised one this morning that called her departure voluntary. He takes both personnel memos from the portfolio before I can move and places them in front of Evelyn. I was trying to keep the presentation, he says. I knew the facts. I left them out. Russell looks older for exactly one breath. Then he becomes the owner again. You're finished, he tells Dean. Dean nods. Maybe. Evelyn slides the memos back toward me. Those are an employment matter. I have what I need for the project. It is a small mercy, delivered without warmth. Russell walks to the window overlooking the shop. Below him, the press brake comes down. The sound reaches us as a muted blow through the glass. "What do you need to keep the installers moving?" he asks Scott. Scott lists it without hesitation. Harbor's joint check agreement by 2. Updated supplier aging by 4. Confirmation that labor and per diem are funded through completion. No equipment charges against Whitcomb. Daily field reports until punch list closeout. Russell listens. He asks 3 precise questions about retainage, approved change orders, and whether controlled funds can cover outsource polishing already delivered. His anger folds itself around the work. That is his most unsettling talent. He can make a disastrous choice at breakfast and solve a fabrication problem before lunch. "I'll sign the joint check agreement," he says, under protest. "You can write those words in your own file," Evelyn says. The agreement stays clean. Dean coughs into his fist. It might be a laugh. Russell signs at 1:47. Harbor receives the joint check the following afternoon. Celia emails a conditional waiver within 11 minutes, then sends the unconditional release when the funds clear. Scott records the lien notice as cured, but Whitcomb keeps the controls in place through the end of the project. Brenner's receivable arrives 4 days late. By then, the bank has started its review. I spend those 4 days at my dining table answering questions about transactions I warned against and correcting reports that still carry my name. I am unpaid. My health coverage ends at the close of the month. 2 local companies tell me they are interested, then become careful when they learn why I left Vale. One recruiter asks whether I have a pattern of conflict with entrepreneurial leadership. I tell her I have a pattern of reconciling bank accounts. She doesn't laugh. Russell communicates through the outside accountant. Dean sends one text asking if I've eaten, then leaves a container of soup outside my door when I don't answer. I return the spare key in the empty container. The bank's decision arrives 2 weeks later. Vale keeps its operating line, but Whitcomb receivables are excluded until project closeout. Capital spending is suspended. An outside controller must approve disbursements and report directly to the lender during the review period. Halloran refuses to refund the laser deposits. Russell negotiates permission to assign the manufacturing slot to Ross Fab, the very outsourcer he wanted to escape. Ross pays Vale 70 cents on the dollar and takes delivery of the machine in its own name. The loss consumes Russell's planned expansion fund and most of the owner distributions for the year. Vale survives. The shop keeps cutting, bending, welding, and installing. Whitcomb's lobby opens with our stainless running clean from the elevators to the bar. The second phase goes to another fabricator. Dean loses his vice president title during the review and becomes director of business development. He signs every revised vendor status report himself. The first time Harbor puts a small order on hold, he walks into Celia's office with a company check and waits for a receipt dated that day. 3 months after the lien notice, the outside controller asks me to meet at Vale. Russell sits at the same conference table. The green payroll pouch is in front of him. My office keys lie on top. "We need an operations director," he says. "You need someone to approve your spending. We have a controller for that. You need both." His eyes narrow, but the controller slides a written authority schedule across the table. Vendor communications cannot be altered in client reports. Project funds must follow approved cost allocations. Capital purchases require review. Termination of a finance or operations officer requires written cause and notice to the controller during the bank period. The compensation is higher than my old salary. It is approved by the controller and lender, not left to Russell's mood. I read every line. "You planning to classify this for an hour?" Russell asks. "Longer if you talk." Dean looks down to hide a smile. Russell never apologizes. He signs the authority schedule. For him, the signature costs more. I return on a Monday. The brass receipt spike is still beside my monitor, holding a month of bent yellow slips. I unscrew it from the desk and replace it with a flat locking tray. The spike goes into my bottom drawer, wrapped in an old shop towel. On the first Friday under the new controls, Paula hands me the green pouch. Inside are the signed payroll summaries, verified overtime, funded travel advances, and Harbor's final lien release. I zip it closed and carry it through the shop. Marco is checking a curved rail against the plywood template. "Bottom holding?" he asks. I shift the pouch under my arm. "This time," I say, "it's solid." At the conference room door, Russell is waiting to sign the payroll release. He looks at the pouch, then at me, and moves aside. I carry it in myself.